Okay, good morning and welcome to Mo Knows, featuring me, Monica Mo Justice. All right. Today is Monday morning quarterbacking, and that's a session that I am, it's a new segment of Mo Knows, which we became familiar with. Hey, Cameron. Hey, JT. We became familiar with towards the end of 2020. Let's define. It will be in its own tab, its own playlist on here with my definition of Monday morning quarterbacking, which is a person who passes judgment on and critiques something after the event. So today's discussion is going to be surrounding something that I am critiquing that occurred, and I'm critiquing it now. And hopefully you will be engaged with the topic. And if we don't, I thought it was a good Monday to start this with, because it's a Monday when there is no work for me. So it'll give you guys more opportunity to engage with me and to embrace the conversation. And if you are watching me on replay, embrace the conversation in the comments at the end of the video, just or at the bottom of the video, so that I will be aware of the interest. All right. What I will bring to you is three different events. I'm going to call them events that have occurred in or are occurring in women's life that I'm going to critique. Every week, it will not be about women. It will just be about a topic. I hope to have an enthusiastic question that we're going to seek an answer to at the end. Okay. So to that end, if any other version of Monday morning quarterback has been seen up here and you think it was applicable to you, again, it means that you're not thinking out of the box. And I don't know what more to say to folks, but I could show you better than I could tell you. Anyhow. Let's get this on in topic. So you know our girl Tiffany Haddish has recently went through a breakup in her relationship with some rapper dude. I don't really know who he is, but she broke up with this dude named Common. And it seems like her life is a little bit out of control. I've been watching her on an HBO special with this other comedian. What's the name of it? It's like the real OGs or the OGs. Something have to do with OGs, but it's originally this is a rebroadcast on HBO, but it originates from from TBS. So I didn't notice at first when I was watching it. I just been watching it. It's kind of mediocre acting, but right about now, since the pandemic, I really find all of the shows that I'm watching really to be mediocre. Yeah, I find them to be mediocre, or I'm getting older and I'm not impressed with the way things are being displayed or being portrayed on these different shows. All right, let me see. Yeah, I can't take when the light is all in my face. Okay. All right. So anyway, Tiffany Haddish was recently arrested in Georgia for DUI, driving under the influence. I don't think it's been determined what the actual influence was. because she was pulled over, and this is in 2021. She was pulled over. She pulled into, so the article reads that um, several people saw her vehicle, which I think is a Ford Explorer, driving questionable on the road, or the driver was stalled on the road as if the driver was sleeping or something inside of the car. Anyway, even a police officer called it in. So he must have been an off-duty police officer, and he tended to his own business and kept it moving. But he called it in. Nevertheless, um, she was finally spotted by the arresting officers as she was pulling into the yard of a residence. No one has stated whose residence it was, if it was her destination, her final destination, if it was her residence that she drove into, or if she was doing what we do, avoiding the popo. But nevertheless, she pulled into a yard of a residence. She was questioned by the police officers, and she refused to take a breathalyzer. Consequently, if you refuse to take a breathalyzer test, you will be immediately arrested, because they have no ability to tell if you are under the influence or not. Remember our good old friend down there in Georgia? What was his name? He had the sobriety test on the side of the road. I guess they're not doing that anymore. A million questions with folks. They getting straight to the point. Take a breathalyzer first. If you refuse to take a breathalyzer, we'll just arrest you. Bond was posted by her, and she was subsequently released. Why I bring her up this morning is because in a statement, she says that her personal life is in shambles. She lost loved ones in the past couple of weeks, but she summarizes it as her personal life is in shambles. So not only did she lose her relationship, but she had a few deaths inside her family. And I don't know what dues this woman paid, but I'm like really questionable. One of the things that had her really upset was that her mentor, Bob Saget, passed away as well, and she was extremely overwhelmed because he was a pivotal person in her life. I don't follow her that much, so I'm probably gonna have to add her book to our book club to figure out who she is. I saw it. I never really wanted to read her. I was never really that interested in her. Some of the movies that I saw that she starred in, I thought she did some pretty down home acting. I didn't find her to be a great actress, but I found her to be a true to the hood actress. Like that's how I would see things if I was in the hood. So I felt like she kept her acting mirrored what the woman of color experiences in the real world. So I'm gonna leave that at that with her. Let me see there's something else I want to say about her before I move on. Okay. Wait, I'm watching and I'm watching it in real time with y'all. Okay. Good morning, Ivame. So Tiffany Haddish is going through some stuff, and it seems like she's when the world is caving in on her personally, it seems like it's a lot for her to deal with. I don't hold her personally. I don't hold her to a higher standard at this point, because the behaviors that she's engaging in is very dangerous behavior. Getting drunk, and again they took the breathalyzer, and I'm sure that when you she refused the breathalyzer. So let's talk about that from a legal perspective. If you refuse to take the breathalyzer, then you get arrested. then you don't get to refuse anymore to do anything because now you're under arrest. And I think they go for then a blood test. And then that's when they do the toxicology to find out exactly what your levels were and what exactly was in your system. Meantime, between time, because nobody was injured, I guess she just posted a bond and she was let out. But is this typical? At least she walked away from and still lives after her sobriety, after being pulled over in Atlanta. That wasn't the same for our guy. What was it? Rashid. What was his name? It's a Rashid something. Anyway, that's one topic for today. That's one Black woman today. That's one woman. Next up is my girl, Marilyn Mosby. Now, I covered this a couple of days ago, giving you the perspective of an article that I read. Then I went and did a little bit more due diligence of my own. And I actually was able to pull up the charges against her. Time out. Those charges was easy to pull up, but yesterday you guys presented me to Cardi B and whatever. I had to go on Pacers and set up an account. So as soon as I get my Pacers account, I will be able to pull the court documents and see what happened in the Cardi B. What's the other chick's name? Tasha K situation. But for Miss Mosby, whose case is also in federal court, I was able to read the charges against her, and they differentiated so bad from the article. I only wish that I had that to go side by side against the article, because the article was like, oh, she was getting $9,000 a month payments. And I was like, why would the PPP be giving her $9,000? So it was all misinformation in the article, or misinterpreting what type of request was put out there on this application. It appears that Miss Mosby, in her own words, filed for her own money. Many of you who have a 401k, those of you who work, know that you can withdraw against your 401k. And as such, you can take out hardships. You have to prove the hardship in order to take the money out without a penalty. Now, I do recall in the CARES Act, right? People were allowed to withdraw up to $100,000 if they were impacted by COVID. And one of the things to be impacted by COVID was simply that you just had to have been quarantined. And there's a list of things that was in that breakdown. And what I found interesting in the indictment was that the prosecutor's position, or the federal government's position, is that she did not endure any financial hardships. Now, she came out and did a press conference. Eloquently, she said that she will fight, as she's been fighting since upon her arrival into that position, that leadership role. That she actually said she's been a progressive, she knew she was coming here doing progressive change in the criminal justice system, and that it would not be it would not be an easy task. So she had a feeling what she came into, that she has spent years now fighting to keep her law license, And she went through a litany of things, frivolous investigations that have been launched against her, which means that she probably has had to pay for a lot of legal advice. But it's still kind of, I'm still like this because the information is, um, did you perjure yourself on the documents for the request? Um, but the hardship is available to all of us. So the question is, what was her hardship? And if she was experiencing financial hardship, she might have met one of those criterions. Um, it wasn't a financial hardship directly because she wasn't um, receiving income, her normal income. It was a financial hardship because that's where she was at. I did ask myself, does she have children? And it seems like she has small children. And one of the reasons that you could also withdraw had to do with childcare arrangements. So we don't know what transpired in her life, because that she didn't share with us, that led her to withdraw this money. But we will find out in the days ahead, because apparently her lawyer will speak out for her eventually. So I asked the question, is she being held to a higher standard? Is there anybody else out here, any men, women of non-color who took out these same loans, being attacked, looked at? She says she's done nothing wrong and that this was a political ploy. So I'll have to see how I feel about that. So more to come on her and what's going on in her legal matters. So we're definitely going to follow that case here. And I will tell you, from the fellow YouTube channels that I watch that cover trials, because they were very boisterous against her. And it all stemmed from the Freddie Gray arrest of the officers. And it seems like she definitely made a bunch of people mad. And they brought some facts to life that I have to go fact checking now to see if they are true. But that some of these officers, there were some facts that I did not know. Or there were some I don't want to call them facts because I don't know if they were facts yet, but people were stating that there were other things that led up to these officers going into that neighborhood and making the arrest of the Freddie Gray type person. So and they feel like her office precipitated that that arrest, and then when it went astray, prosecuted. But at the end of the day, if you have a job to do a certain task and you get called in to perform your duty, and you perform your duty in a reckless way that results in another person's death, or causes bodily harm to another, serious bodily harm to another, who should be held accountable? You're the bad actor. You're the person who engaged in the inappropriate behavior that resulted in the person's death. It's not just, um, it's not because you got called in because this was a favor. So the allegations is that the husband, who was a political person, received complaints from his constituents that there was a lot of activity going on in the neighborhood. So he called in a favor with his wife to send in people to make arrests in the area, to clean up the area that was at question. And this was a consequence of that favor he called into her, that these officers were there. And nothing negates putting a man inside of a man hogtied inside of a vehicle, driving him around up and down town. But I've always had my questions about why they drove him up and down town. Did they put him in that vehicle and just drive him around, or did they put him in that vehicle and they was driving around looking for other suspects to put in the vehicle? I never got a clear answer on that. So anyway, more to come on this instant with her. She actually feels like she's being targeted. It's a political assassination of her character. She's going to stand firm inside the position that she currently holds for now. I don't even know if there's a way out of it. Next up on my list of our women held to a higher standard, we, starting tonight, will begin the book, the 1619 Project. And the reason why we are listening to that book is because, and we're going to do an Audible book for the book club. We're listening to this book because this book seems to be in the middle of a bunch of controversies when a lot of stuff is going down. It's written by a woman, and the allegations that I read in respect to the book is that there are factual errors in the book, and misleading materials are included in the book. But I have seen teachers, YouTube channels here who have expressed that they have used this book in the classroom as a tool, and it has empowered their students to get more involved and it was a different way to introduce history or the impact of racial wealth gap to their students. And it was a good teaching tool that they used. Same book. So when in one person's perspective is that it's a factual error and it has misleading materials, and another person's perspective is that it doesn't. It's a good teaching tool, and children of today can relate to it and really process history, because our kids today are a little bit more sophisticated than our kids of yesterday. So to that extent, in the state of Georgia again, they are now instituting a Black woman's tax credit. And this is part of a program that they said was out of the ideas of, you received a copy for Christmas? Yeah, I like hardcover books, but I promised myself that I would not fund this channel on two tangents anymore. Time out, pause. So for me to do the book club and to do the book club as an Audible book, so that people don't have to purchase the book but can listen along and participate, and hopefully join in a later discussion. I can only afford to do one of two things, and that's either listen to it as an Audible or purchase it as a read along for myself. And I'm not that inclined to keep spending money on a channel that doesn't make me money. So I'm taking a pause right now. I'm gonna come back to that. Let me just finish off on this guaranteed income program. Martin Luther King, whose birthday is today, his birthday is not today. Let's be clear. His birthday was on the 15th. But we are honoring his birthday today on the 17th of January because it's the third Monday of the month. And when I was a kid, it was the best thing that could have happened to us. And you guys may remember this. Hold on, I'm at to cue this up. Because I remember when people went into the studio and made this song. I don't remember the beat going like this. Maybe it did. Yeah. Human beatbox. Y'all might remember King Holiday. It's the day for everyone. This when music was at its core. Who paved the way for freedom, justice, equality for you and me? It's to celebrate. Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. King tried to love somebody. Do you want to love somebody? All right, y'all remember that, right? I just had to do that. Sorry, retarded as I am. Okay, anyway. So that's what today is, but it's not his birthday today. But anyway, this guaranteed income program was one of the things that he spoke on. And here's a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. I am now convinced that the simplest approach will prove to be the most effective. The solution to poverty is to establish it directly by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income. So to that, you gotta have comedy in here. So to that, this program in Georgia is giving $850 a month to women, to 600 women, I believe it is. 650 Black women across Georgia will receive $850 a month for the next 2 years. So that will be a total of $20,000, $20,400 that will that will be given to them in the hopes of what was that thing? Impacting the racial wealth gap. So I found this to be an interesting approach. Don't know how the 650 women would be selected, but we do know that women that were not in the program applaud this idea because, or this principle, because they feel that if they have been given a guaranteed income, and these are not women that are just laying at home, receiving some other kind of government aid. These are women who are working a job with children who are down, considered below poverty, or have, so it's unbalanced. And this $850 is supposed to balance out something, or it's supposed to add to them and be of benefit. Interestingly enough, I heard of this about I want to say a year ago, but I didn't really believe it was real, and I thought it was maybe just a project that was giving the money to folks. I didn't realize that this was a tax credit. I'm sure that's why they spied on him for being no, they spied on they spied on him. It is I can't imagine what it was like to be a Black person growing up, or a Black person in the 1926, 1936, 46, 56, 66. I can't imagine what those 40 years was like for a Black person. I have heard stories from my father about his accounts of why he left the South and headed north, and what the North meant to him, and why he would never travel back South. And he didn't understand why anyone and why one any of his kids would consider even going down South. I also understood the hurt and pain when if any one of my father's um if they would consider dating white folks, why he didn't understand, why he could not relate to that kind of relationship. And it's all because of how the white man had treated him the first 40 years of his life. So now let me just say, imagine all the time that I've been here, I've been mistreated. So I'm going into my 50s. So for 40 of my years, only 10 of them have I experienced equality, and we still don't have equality. Imagine going through the whole time that's passed, and I'm sitting up here wanting to um, come to um, a new agreement on how we should move forward. They watched Martin Luther King because they were not ready to enter a new agreement of how to come forward. That's why our young people today are vital to us, because they have brought, most of them have been raised in this colorblind society. I call it a charmed life. And they're living with no knowledge or no real understanding of those pains that many generations before them had endured. Many doors closed to them. They don't understand that. You will see today women taking on, our young women taking on the same jobs of old adults. It's absolutely crazy, basically. But it is what it is. Um and they feel a certain kind of way about it, and they advocate hard to do the things that they are doing, and to stand firm in their beliefs and in their experiences. um Many of us who live with the pain of those years don't see it like that. But Martin Luther King, in my opinion, he was looked at as all leaders, anybody that could, any motivational speaker in the 60s that was able to organize was a threat. An organized rebellion is the things that toppled their slave movement. So any organized movement topples the oppressor's position. 2020 was a prime example of that. When people took to the streets, and all people took to the streets, it was because we were oppressed. We were sitting through a time called a pandemic, and folks had become too stuck inside indoors. Some people may have joined some of these protests and stuff for the wrong reasons, but they let their presence be known and their outrage be spoken. And it kept escalating till we got to the insurrection. That's why those people tried to do the things that they did on that day, because they thought it would be intertwined with the previous marches and outrage that had hit the streets. And they honestly thought, those insurrectionists on January 6th, they, in my opinion, thought the opposition was going to meet them in the street. And then they was going to fade out in their hate mongering ways. And nobody, and and no one would be the wiser because they would conflate the two groups again. We had seen them do it in what was it? It was in North Carolina when the two groups came against each other. We've seen it up there with Kyle Rittenhouse when the two groups came and collided together, two opposing views on democracy came and and collided together. We seen the outrage and the outcome of their union. And normally, the people that stand on the position of civil rights end up the losers in that battle when they collide. And on the insurrection day, the opposition didn't come there to fight them because they looked so stupid. Arguing against their own democratic process they put in place, their own biased process that they put in place that finally went against their best interests, and they did not yield the result that they wanted. And with that, the most crazy of their fashion came out outraged. And even the people that had some little glimmer of hope that were not so far extreme, who may have thought that an election was stolen, found themselves in the middle of something that they had not prepared themselves to really be in, and saw what they had not prepared themselves to see, that they hope it was the opposition that was there with them. They wanted to blame somebody else for the crazies amongst them because they can't identify or want to really acknowledge that that is who they are. That's the people they represent. On one of the most historic places that one could go is down there to DC. There have been the March on Washington. There have been so many prominent things that occurred down there in the face of democracy or the face of change. What was it? The 1,000 Black Men, whatever, the Million Man March was down there. When you just had Black men, go down there and stand firm in the 90s. So, what does that all mean to me? It just comes back to a place where folk have to decide what side of history they want to be on. And folks have to decide what side of his story they want to tell as they tell about their journey. One has to determine what is the best roads forward for you. Not based on anybody else's standards, based on your own standards. One has to stop making excuses for what didn't happen for them. One has to stop using their negatives. You've got to really start to turn your negatives into positive. That's why you have to look. I'm just doing Martin Luther King quotes today because in honor of him. If you can't fly, then you need to run. If you can't run, then you need to walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep on moving. You have to keep moving forward. There's no backwards in this approach. And at the end of the day, you have to change the outcomes, the end results for folks. So you have to begin to put different variables in to get different outcomes. It's insane that we keep doing things the same way over and over again, and we expect to get a different outcome when that is not how this works. You have to put different variables in. So maybe, perhaps giving 650 women $850 a month will be the change that they need. That extra $20,000 will be a change in somebody's life. Maybe it will be the difference of a young woman with small kids. Maybe that young woman being Monica Mo Justice, being able to go to school, get an associate's degree and a certificate in paralegal studies that allowed her one day to make double her income than what she was making when she lived in the little projects. You put a different variable in there and you come out with a different result. I need to, for me, I need to keep putting in different variables so that I can yield better results. No one gave me anything along the way, and I wish somebody had, but I probably wouldn't have taken it. And for the things that I did receive along the way, the shelter, the protection, the uplifting, the empowering, the strength that I got through every negative event that I have experienced in my life has been rewarding to me. So I cannot imagine what it must mean to other women who have not fallen on their swords and have picked themselves up and made something more valuable of themselves and more value and done something more valuable with their time. I don't begrudge them. When I see women who are hiding behind alcohol, like a Tiffany Haddish, when she has come to the levels that she has gained and risen and has become this famous actress who started from the bottom and she's here, and to get washed up in this self-pity at the top of the game, I got a problem with that. I personally got a problem with that because that's not where she needs to be at this time. And the young women that are looking up to her, and the first time people fall, they say, don't make me no martyr. I'm not trying to be no role model for anybody. Damn you. Because you keep talking about the role models that you had that got you to the place that you are in right now. So that's a bunch of malarkey. That's the problem around here. People don't want to fess up to the truth of the matter. Mosby, why I speak on her today? Because she's fighting for something, and it sounds like, and it appears like she's been under attack since she arrived there, trying to do something for the people. Now, some people do become self-serving along the way, but Monica Mo Justice, having once sat in a political position, understands the variables there that I will give her the benefit of the doubt until all the facts are in. She'd have got the benefit of the doubt anyway, but I'm giving it to her more so because I feel like she's a pawn in the system that she was trying to revolutionize or be progressive, make progressive change within. But there are people who go into stuff with a goal in mind, and they come out at the back end of it. She would not be the first. There was that what they had a mayor in Detroit. Where's Miss G? They had a mayor in Detroit that was prominent. Another rise to fame who was disgraced and taken out. No. Well, I respect your opinion on Tiffany, but I don't respect the actions. There's no reason to fall apart. A man breaks up with you every single day. They're not here to stay. It doesn't end your life. He's not your everything. Find your God and make him your everything. Find your creator and make him your everything. This is why people's lives are falling apart, because they don't got no they don't got no ground. They're not grounded in anything. So you make and you false worship something. And then when it's gone, you can't handle it because it's gone. If you didn't worship that, you wouldn't be worrying about it. You gotta get more grounded in your, in my opinion, you have to get more grounded in your beliefs. Man was created to disappoint. That's why he ate the damn apple. Because he was created to disappoint. No matter how you shine glory on him, you let him name everything on the land. You give him all the infinite power. Then you give him something that twinkles that little head between the legs, and all thoughts go haywire. And he forgets his God and conforms. Same shit with woman. She made man because she came from man. She made man her priority when she should have stayed focused on her creator who made her for him. If you lose your foundation of what really is your core belief, or if you don't have one and you have it in people's and processes, and you're not going to last out here. So, they say money. I know people handle stuff differently, but at the end of the day, if you have stronger belief practices, that is not man. If you believe beyond man, that's why those people that be like, oh my God, but I'll be like, well, let me listen to what they have to say about their God before I start hearing. Because he be doing all kinds of wonderful things too, or all kinds of fictitious shit that you would never even heard of. But that be their story. And I don't want to argue with them about their story and their experience. But at the end of the day, you really have to be rooted in something, and you cannot let these little challenges in life destroy who you are meant to be. And so I feel for Tiffany Haddish, because I say to myself, she's right. 22 is not a good year. Starting out to be it's not a good year. Now for the Asians, it's the year of the tiger. And I was thinking about that, the symbolism of the tiger. So I'll come back and discuss that at a later date. But there is no way, good morning, Beach, there is no way I'm going to jeopardize who I am, nor should other women jeopardize who they are for a man. I saw an article saying we shouldn't condemn her. Are we talking about Tiffany Haddish? I don't think she should be condemned. She should get what everyone else gets that makes that mistake. There's no mistake. I don't understand. I don't understand. We getting this. All right. I don't understand what condemn. She's going to get prosecuted for drunk driving, or what? And it wasn't even drunk driving. It was driving under the influence. The only thing she saved herself from is we don't have a number right now to say she was like 8 point something, which is 4 times the legal limit. But eventually that number is going to come out. Her intuitions as a person of color came forward. She declined the breathalyzer. She submitted to being she conformed to being arrested, which is different than what the men do. They fight flight. But she conformed to being arrested. There must have been some kind of blood test taken because that's normally the protocol when somebody denies or refuses to take a breathalyzer. Because let's just face, any lawyer would tell you to refuse the breathalyzer at the side of the road. You're going to be arrested anyway. You might as well just go in and get arrested. At least if something in your system that you didn't know caused you to be in under the influence of whatever it was that had you impaired your driving, you can argue that best. You can argue that easier from a test than just having the breathalyzer work against you, because they're less likely to give you a breathalyzer and a blood test. The breathalyzer only tells a number. It doesn't tell a problem. The blood test is going to speak to a problem. It could have been any series of things. It could be an interaction with something else that was in her blood that could have, like a good lawyer can find other reasonable doubts in shit. But that breathalyzer could be the worst moment ever. But she's going to have a consequence equivalent to whatever the consequences are. And to be quite honest, now the flip side of Momomo, when y'all got this much money, hire a goddamn chauffeur. Let me become a millionaire. I am worse than the president. You know how the presidents be like, oh, I can never drive again. I gave up my privilege to drive. No, Mo is going to give up her privilege to drive, and she is going to rock up out of here with her bag, walking down the driveway or wherever the fuck it is, getting inside the car with a driver. That's how that shit's gonna go. I'm gonna pay the salary of somebody to transport me around at my beck and call. That's it. I'm gonna pay a salary for somebody to do that, and I'm only gonna have them on the times when I need a person to drive me. I'm gonna make a schedule. This is what I want to do this day. This is where you're gonna drive me to. That's about it. There's no damn way. So that means you'll be on call 24/7. But there's no way. Call a goddamn Uber. Like, there are alternatives that one could settle for. So I don't feel any kind of special passageway for her. Oh, you arrived late, Gleb. That's what happened. I talked about her personal life being in shambles. But we all have been there with our personal lives. I don't drink, so I need to stop saying I don't drink. I'm not a social drinker or everyday drinker or whatever. But at the time when you become codependent, that's why this month in January is Dry January. #Dry January, because you've got to take accountability for the shit you take in. But like I said, she had enough common sense not to get to refuse the breathalyzer and go, and I'm sure she had no choice in being blood tested. Once you are arrested, you are being detained. They could do whatever the hell they want to do. The public said the same thing about the track girl that failed the drug test. I don't know, the track girl who failed the drug test. I'm not getting all into this stuff. I didn't come on a save Tiffany Haddish moment. I came here and said, is she being held to a higher standard, or is she a pawn in the system? So I didn't come here with a question of forgiveness or free Tiffany Haddish banter. I came here on the topic of, is she being held to a higher standard? My answer to that is no. Is she a pawn in a system? Absolutely. And she put herself there. And you have to take accountability when you become a pawn in a system that you didn't have to enter into. No one made a decision to drive in impaired other than her. And I don't know at this juncture what she was impaired with, but that will come. And I don't know who the public is who's making these statements about her. And nor do I care, because my perspective was on the event itself and the consequences of it. We will follow Tiffany Haddish here to see what becomes of her arrest for driving under the influence. We will see what becomes of it. At least thing we know for Tiffany Haddish is that she is alive, unlike our dude, what's his name, who was at the Wendy's dude. I gotta go find his name. Rashad Brooks. She lives. Rashad Brooks, he didn't go home that night. He didn't go home that night. And I can't wait to see the body cam footage of the police officers. And the interesting thing is that a police officer saw her vehicle impaired in the road. He's an off-duty officer, and he kept to minding his business. Sources are saying Haddish has lost it since she left Common. So the article I read, just so that you guys know, stated that Tiffany Haddish lost, I think, a grandmother, some other close family members within the same time period that she lost, that she broke up with Common. Everything might not be surrounding that man in his situation. But I don't know. Did she have a baby? Was she? I thought she was supposed to be pregnant. I don't follow her. Y'all gotta go back to the beginning. I said she was a mediocre actress to me. I just felt like she kept the roles real. So, hood bitch shit. She comes off a little, hood bitches. I appreciate that. But otherwise, yeah, no. All right. It's not my goal to be here for much longer. But and it's not my goal to argue with y'all about your position on free Tiffany Haddish. But I will tell you, I will cover this again from an objective point of view, and see what happens to her in the court system as she goes through this. And that's about it. We'll see if she will be held to a higher standard or if she will just be a pawn in the system. In any event, today's production or today's broadcast was brought to you by the letters M and O. And now I've got